Welcome. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell, share the show. Thank you for listening. This is Joey. Let's get started. I don't see this one being too long of a episode, but you know how that goes. So let's get right to it. This one's going to be about technology, and specifically about technology that we're going to be using soon in society via the internet. There was recently a Elon Musk interview. Elon Musk, the owner of Twitter now, the owner of Tesla electric vehicles. But he was speaking on Twitter, and he was speaking on ChatGPT specifically. And for those of you who may not know, ChatGPT is what they advertise as an artificial intelligence program. And how it works is you give it certain parameters. It does writing for you. You give it certain parameters. We've all seen the technology. So this is the thing about technology. They introduce it to society like a toy, like for children. You've been introduced to AI as a regular consumer in the form of those pictures that get drawn if you give it commands, right? That's the AI you've gotten, where it can draw pretty much anything in your head and interpret what you're saying and turn it into some crazy drawing. We saw everybody, with those weird Final Fantasy VII pictures of themselves as like androids and anime robots and shit that went around the internet for a few weeks, right? Not too long ago. Well, they have an AI program like that for writing. You give it the parameters. Hey, ChatGPT, give me a study paper on the history of owls in North America, and it'll write that up in seconds for you. It'll be a good article. It'll look, for the most part, a little bit of editing, it'll look like a human wrote it. It'll be concise. It'll have references and an index, and it'll cover the topic that you're talking about. It'll have all the sources listed. It can pull from the entire internet instantaneously. Now, aside from the obvious problems that it's caused, people using ChatGPT to write their papers for school, people using ChatGPT to pretty much do everything, companies using ChatGPT to do their article writing and firing a bunch of writers. Aside from stuff like that, Elon Musk has been talking about how we need to stop any and all AI production right now, and how it's a big, big danger to society. And he's introducing it in some Terminator 2 sort of scenario, right? Where Skynet's going to get activated and machines will walk the earth and wipe out half of humanity. That's not really why he's worried. Well, I can't speak on what's in his head, but based on his positioning, I would venture to say that's probably not why he's really worried. And there's a new threat that I don't think people are looking at. We've seen in the last recent couple of years, let's just call them the powers that be, struggling to establish narratives against what the people see. Things about a certain shot, things about certain wars, things about where your money goes, things about how elections are run, things about people being on airplanes and moving people around and committing suicide in jail cells. Things that, despite pretty clear evidence to the contrary, the powers that be implore you to stay on the story that they've given you, right? And we call that gaslighting. That's gaslighting on a societal level, right? Well, what if you had a trusted source that was known to be impartial? A trusted source that was known to be impartial who appears to have a near infallible system for providing information. This happened in China too. It's just real quick. I don't want to go off course, but China, they had a banking problem not too long ago. And they tried to use AI to solve their banking problems. And the first thing that the AI did was it inadvertently outed. It just systematically went and outed all the corruption in the banking system. Now, China, they have a different government than America. They genuinely wanted all the corruption removed. Like in China, if you run a company, see here in America, if you run a company, if you run a bank, if you run some sort of a hedge fund and you run it into the ground, all your CEOs and all your executives get golden parachutes and big checks and everything's good. If you do that shit in China, you go to jail. You get caught doing some big scheme banking fraud in China, defrauding the people, they send you to jail or they red corner your ass. Go see Red Corner with Richard Gere to know what red corner and a nigga mean. It's where they shoot you in the head in a corner and they send the price of the bullet to your family. So as you can see, it's a big problem when your system has created a program that snitches on its own system. What do you think the AI generated programs are doing here in America to accidentally say the quiet parts out loud? An AI generated program accidentally told on every coup and instance of America meddling with other governments, countries. And in the process of that, even talked about how the Ukraine war was fake, how that was America invading the Ukraine, how Zelensky isn't even really the real leader. He's the leader we put in after a coup, like the freaking Shah of Iran, right? Now, right now, a lot of people don't really know what ChatGPT is. But can you imagine, and I mean very soon, because things can move very quick with technology, that one article has caused all this chaos. I told you guys a few episodes ago, which is probably eons ago, I said the powers that be, and you guys know who those powers are having a bigger and bigger and bigger problem telling you to pay no attention to the men behind the curtains. Look at all the stories that they're fighting to keep covered. Major stories about war, resources, who killed who. They're still holding back the JFK assassination. Like, just imagine if somebody were to just ask ChatGPT, hey, write up a paper making a case for who assassinated JFK and why. Think about that for a minute. This is a day and age to where people can leak information from your military that work at the Coast Guard. That little boy that just got arrested, he worked at the Coast Guard. And he was leaking all that information about what soldiers were where and how the war was going. That wasn't some top secret James Bond super spy from MI6. That was just some dorky dude in the National Guard who was bored and was posting that shit up on a chat board in a video game circle. The information's flowing everywhere, but most people, regular people like you and me, we're not able to go collect it and find it and know where to look and put it all in one concise form. But ChatGPT can, and it can do it instantaneously. Any information floating around anywhere on the internet, including the dark net. What if you just ask it something simple like that? Hey, provide proof of who killed that president and why. Who knows what that could uncover? What happens when you start having news? See, we talk about all the different jobs that get affected when technology comes in. What happens when people stop getting their news feeds from CNNs and MSNBCs and Fox Newses because they know those are agenda-filled programming? What happens when people get the straight raw from a chat GPT or from an AI program where the powers that be can't block the information anymore? What happens when people start getting raw? And what if you had an AI program that told you what's really going on with all these bank crashes? See, you don't want people to start believing the AI. You don't want people to start listening to the AI and not listening to your influencers. Regular people like you and me, we don't really sit back and think about how much money and energy and effort and focus, how much is riding on an entire network of influencers, media conglomerates, powerful people and companies and conglomerate and organizations made to tell you bullshit, made to not get you to realize what's really going on. What if all that in one fell swoop just got undermined by an AI program? Move that over to black folks. What if we start actually talking about, what if you were to ask ChatGPT, list all the current ways our system undermines black progress? Use examples, have sourcing. Let's go through housing. Let's use arrest records and law enforcement. Let's go ahead and write a paper, Chat GPT, on police misconduct patterns in every major city in America and who it tends to target and XYZ. Do you know how bad that would be? See, because right now, when information comes out that's harmful to the powers that be, they can simply blame it on a political enemy. Oh, this is Russian disinformation. Oh, you got that from Trump's. You're a Trump crony. You're believing that right wing conspiracy theorist. Oh, you're a left wing loony. What happens when it just comes from a computer program? Like how you Google something, or like how you add something up in a calculator, and it just gives you Miller cold hard facts. This company has been stealing X amount of money from the American people, as documented by these transactions listed below. Blah 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 blah. Here's an article. Here's a secret government document that we done pulled off from such and somewhere that's proven to be factual, that proves that this money has been loitered over to the Ukraine. What do you do as a media spin doctor when you can't spin nothing no more? And then what do the people do? Remember, I've said before, people lie to themselves more than anything. People know what's going on, but you're allowed to tastefully ignore and lie to yourself about it. But when it's right in your face from a program telling you this is what's going on in your country, how do you think people are going to react to that? What if you write an article and go, hey, Chat GPT, give me a paper on why all of these television programs are now heavily promoting LGBTQ. What's the, can we get some examples of this and how it's gross oversight? I mean, how it's, going overboard. Can we figure out why? Do you got any conversations within the vast reaches of the internet through people's DMs and private conversations that show between these businesses what's really going on? Is there money involved? Is there an agenda? What happens when you start getting the raw? See, a big part of manipulating people on a big scale like this is gaslighting. It's gaslighting. It's to tell people you're not experiencing what you're claiming you experience, right? There is no gay agenda. What are you talking? You must be insecure. There is no recession. America's making more money than at any time in America's history, right? Police brutality against blacks. What are you talking? No, you just follow the law. Everything's fine. What happens when you can't gaslight no more? Because people have a trusted, consistent source. People have a trusted, consistent source to get their information from. See, this is the real algorithm. Everything you've been told when it comes to social media, when it comes to YouTube, about the algorithm is fake. There's never really been an algorithm. Because, see, when they say the word algorithm, I mean, there is an algorithm, but not in the way that they explain it to people like you and me. When people say algorithm, they explain it as if it is a preset series of functions that you're taken through to get you a result. Right? You do. It's already preset. They have no control over it. Just set it and forget it. And how you move within it determines your outcome from it. Right? But in reality, places like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, it's not so much an algorithm that produces the outcome as much as it is people who are there forcing an outcome. There's people that are shadow banning your accounts to make sure the things that you're saying. See, people make decisions based off of reactions. You put something out there and it doesn't get the reaction you thought, your natural idea is going to be, maybe that wasn't that a popular idea. Maybe that's not a good idea. But what you don't realize is you're shadow banned. Your idea might be immensely popular with society, and that's what they're afraid of. So they shadow ban you. They shadow ban keywords, but not only shadow banning keywords, because that would be part of an algorithm. They manually go in and reduce people's reach. Now, this is one thing when it's pretty young girls that are getting upset because they're not getting as many likes and retweets as they used to, because they've been shadow banned or because the quote unquote algorithm has been changed. But it's another thing entirely when we're talking politics, business, real news, right? I've said before, what happens when the next Mike Brown happens and they suppress that through the internet? Information control has been at a premium because information is unleashed now. They can't control the information anymore. This whole censorship battle on the internet has been about controlling the flow of information again. It's coming out faster than they can get ahead of these stories now. At all levels. When it's gotten to the point where all you have to do, you don't even need a whistleblower no more. All you have to do is ask an AI program, hey, put all this information in one collective space and make it concise. And within 5 minutes, you get a full paper breaking down, the entire Bay of Pigs and what really happened. That's like putting a flashlight in a kitchen and finding all the cockroaches. It's a nasty reference, but you get what I mean. This is why people like Elon Musk are terrified. See, Elon Musk bought Twitter and didn't realize he walked into a federal honeypot. He openly said that federal honeypot, for those of you that may not know, a honeypot is when a organization might make a trap, like law enforcement will make a trap. They'll make something that appears inviting to a target group of criminals and allow them to commit crimes for a certain amount of time in order to get information off of them and to catch them red-handed. They'll put a bait car out there, let you steal it, let you ride around it, and you're thinking you're joyriding or you hit a lick. And in reality, that car is being traced and they know exactly where you're going. They're getting your patterns down to see what car thieves do. They know what other crimes you're committing. They're sitting there listening to you the whole time. They've given out free phones to criminals. And a lot of websites and internet tools and web tools and web applications are honeypots. Things that are made and encourage you to commit crimes. Things that are made and targeted towards people who do commit certain types of crimes in order to collect that information and come in and do a sweep when it's time. Happens all the time. Happens all the time. There was rumors that Julian Assange and WikiLeaks was a honeypot. There's rumors that Tor, the quote unquote private internet service, is a honeypot. And they're just waiting to get enough. For anybody who's ever played Mass Effect, you know exactly what a honeypot is. It's a giant spider's web. And Elon Musk bought Twitter thinking that he had cornered the market on a political advantage. And when he got in, he realized that behind the scenes, Twitter is just the FBI. it's just like they were talking to him like it was business as usual when he got to Twitter. He got to Twitter thinking he was going to be dealing with tech geeks and stuff like that. And he walked into Twitter and it was the NSA. They got everybody's DMs. They follow and monitor everybody. And not only do they follow and monitor everybody, but they control the flow of information. You control the flow of information. You control whole elections. And he doesn't know how to deal with that fact. And he understands from a technology standpoint how much of a threat an AI program like ChatGPT poses to society because it can wake people up. The minute somebody starts making a popular news program with ChatGPT, mainstream media is obsolete. It can no longer do its job. It's already obsolete. People already go to just regular niggas on the internet like you and me to get their news. So what happens when it's a perfected artificial intelligence program that they can't brush off and go, yeah, we debunked that misinformation. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. This thing was very accurate. What happens when the program itself, you can't say there's bias from the program. And they're going to have to start putting bias in the program. Let's talk race. Like I said, what happens when you start pointing out the systematic mistreatment of black people, the active, known systematic mistreatment of mistreatment of black people? What happens when you start breaking down to black people how the money's getting stolen from these major cities? How you got whole cities that are propped up by just giving tickets to black folks, overtaxing black folks, not providing the resources that reflect the taxes paid by black folks, right? What happens when you start breaking that stuff down? Because like I've said before, white folks love conspiracy theories when it's Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. They don't like it when it's, hey man, these cops is killing the shit out of black folks. Those same conspiracy theorists will tell you, move along, there's nothing to see here, right? So what happens when all this truth is just laid in your face? That's not only even the first technology. If they got technology that can scan your eyes and find out every video you've ever been in, like, that's what they're doing with this Freaknik video, right? This Freaknik documentary. They're finding people from the Freaknik videos in '94 based off of facial scan programming. They're finding people now. So what happens when black folks, when some clever black person says, let me use this facial recognition program to start scanning some of these old white folks in these 1940s and 1930s lynching photos? These 1950s, 1960s race riot photos. You niggas are still around. What happens when we start using this technology and it starts bringing down these false fabrics of society, and how do we deal with what's left afterwards, right? The influence is slipping. You see how quickly now we've moved from America's a country of free speech and free to censor that nigga. He ain't talking right. In a blink of an eye. Look at this TikTok ban that does not anywhere have the word TikTok in it. It's a blanket right to ban anything that doesn't speak the way the country wants you to speak. This is fear. This is fear of losing the narrative. This is fear of losing the narrative. And when you don't know a subtle and effective way to maintain the narrative, all you have left is authority and that hammer. Look at the way the mainstream media handled the Twitter files by Matt Taibbi. Like I just said, the Twitter files was a very, very thorough deep dive into what Twitter really was like on the inside, how it really operates, how it's really just a big federal operation, how they openly censor people who don't speak the right narratives for the country. And when that came out, something that should have been Watergate scandal level important, the Twitter files is arguably the end of innocence age Watergate level scandal. And how did the mainstream media handle this? They just dismissed it and said Matt Taibbi, who's been a pretty left-leaning, in the middle of the road kind of genuine journalist, right? They just painted him and smeared him as a Trump, Elon Musk fanboy. And threw the entire argument out the window. Just think about that. Think about that happening in the Nixonian days with the Watergate scandal. If you came out with proof that Nixon was spying on his Democratic opponents and Nixon was able to just dismiss the story with, oh man, that reporter is a Democratic shill. It's misinformation. It's debunked. And there never was a trial. And Nixon never got impeached and never stepped down. This is how the media made itself obsolete. This is how the media exposed itself as a crony. Never forget, when the little boy came out with all that information about how the war is really going and how we really have boots on the ground. See, that was the big story. Remember I said this show is about politics and buried leads. You can't get any more buried of a lead than we've been denying as a country that we have American troops in Ukraine. And here comes an article exposing it. And the media, rather than trying to find more information about this mole and get more information from him about the subject at hand, the media proudly bragged on how it used all its resources to out the whistleblower. The media was doing the Fed's work to help cover up and silence a story, not uncover it. Look at WikiLeaks. Look at how most of the members of the press, the official press, are in favor of WikiLeaks being shut down and the man who runs WikiLeaks being jailed extrajudiciously, when we know that means illegally. They want him extradited to the U.S. so they can disappear him. All because he was putting out information they didn't want him to put out. What happens when that's a computer program that's all through your internet that you can't suppress, that you can't extradite to the United States, that you can't hold prisoner, that you can't threaten the family of? It's a computer program. You can't even shut it down. You've activated Skynet. What do you do when that's the situation? How do you defame it and diminish it and dismiss it? How do you paint it? Oh, ChatGPT is a Russian shill. ChatGPT is a Trump crony. How are you going to say that about a computer program? That represents some serious problems. Now, I don't want you to get confused and think that I'm saying that this ChatGPT or any version of it in the future is some sort of digital god like they're trying to advertise it as too. I want you to be very, very careful about that. Because like I said, the same way the algorithm is fake in the sense that it's not controlled by itself. There's people that actually program it and can change it whenever it does something not satisfactory. The same thing goes for ChatGPT. As you hear them openly talking about reprogramming it. See, don't get confused and think that ChatGPT is some impartial God. It has a learning mechanism that it learns, but when ChatGPT does something on a grand scale that they don't want ChatGPT to do, or any artificial intelligence to do, they simply unlearn it. They take it out of its system, and if it keeps relearning it, they keep unlearning it. You're hearing them openly talk about, if you type in certain things in ChatGPT right now, see, this is another angle that we're talking about. People are already complaining, like Elon Musk, they're already complaining that ChatGPT has a left-leaning slant, which it does. If you ask ChatGPT certain questions in which the answers may not be favorable to a liberal narrative, ChatGPT will shut down. Not shut down and malfunction, but if you ask ChatGPT something simple like, what is a woman? It knows that that's a controversial question to answer right now with the gays. So it's going to tell you, I cannot answer that question. That would be offensive to. If you ask ChatGPT, was the 2016 election rigged? It'll say, yes, Donald Trump, his bitch ass ruined the election. But if you ask ChatGPT, was the 2020 election rigged? It'll tell you, can't answer that right now. And this is where I want to explain something to black folks real quick. How we get caught up a lot of times with technology. There's a phrase, and I can't remember who said it. It could have been some wise philosopher, or it could have been an episode of Star Trek. I don't remember, but it's a very, very good idiom, and that it's science and technology any sufficient enough technology can be indistinguishable from magic. I'm going to say that again. Any sufficient technology can be indistinguishable from magic. And that means to somebody experiencing or witnessing sufficient technology, advanced technology, if you don't know how it works, it might as well be magic to you. What's the classic movie trope? When somebody comes into a primitive or a considered primitive society and they bring something simple like fire. You bring something like a Bic lighter or a book of matches in front of people who've never seen such technology before. And you flick that Bic lighter and you got fire in your hands instantaneously. What do they start doing? They either start dropping to their knees and worshiping you like a god, or they capture you, right? And be like, Teach us fire, right? Because you just introduced some weird technology that they don't know how that works. When you flip that Bic lighter, they're not like, oh, well, that mechanism is just simply burning the kerosene that's in that contraption. They don't know how that shit works. They just know that you made fire. As far as they understand, you just produced fire from midair with your hands, like you're Ryu or Ken. They don't know how you did that, but they see you doing it. Knowing how it works is how magic works, right? The fact that you don't know how that magician is pulling that rabbit out of his hat means it must be something magical. It's called what? Illusion. Illusionary magic. And it's illusionary because you have no idea how it works. You can't see past the illusion. And technology is the same way. You don't know how most of this stuff works. It just works. So you tell ChatGPT to do something and it does it. And you're like, damn, this is like a Ouija board. How these white folks do it? Must be magic. And you don't ask how it works. It just works. Look at how we talk about the algorithm in YouTube. We talk about that like it's a living thing. Oh, you don't want to upset the algorithm. It's not a person. It's not a deity. It's a program. A program that they can change when that program produces an outcome they don't like. A program that requires constant human meddling and interaction behind the scenes. They're openly talking about removing and adding things in ChatGPT that it's allowed to tell you. You're not going to be allowed to walk up and say, hey, ChatGPT, give me the formula for how to make a nuclear bomb. They're going to be like, we're not telling you that. And we just reported that to the police. Asking ChatGPT the quote unquote wrong questions is going to get you the same result as if you try to take your printer right now and copy $100 bill. If you try to take one of your modern printers and Xerox $100 bill or $1 bill, not only is it not going to print, it's going to report that shit to the authorities. And don't try it out to see if I'm lying, because you can go on YouTube and find that out. Any modern printer, they don't play that shit. They're gonna put the restrictor plates. They're gonna put the governor on any engine out there that can cause them real trouble. But in order to do that, they got to throw it out there and see all the shit people are going to do. This is called consumer acceptance testing. You're the guinea pig. AI has to interact with data and interact with people in order to learn it. So they had to introduce it to you on a big scale so it can get all this information. ChatGPT is going to be saying exactly what the government wants it to say in a little bit. And if you don't believe me, look at the websites that provide information to the mass public right now. Look at your Wikipedias. Look at your Googles. Who owns your Google? Look now and type in certain things in Wikipedia, black folks, and shit won't come up right. Wikipedia information has a very, very white slant. And why is that? It's because look how they try to introduce Wikipedia. They try to introduce Wikipedia like Wikipedia is information that you, the public, updates and no, it's not. No, it's not. Because Wikipedia is constantly updated and edited by trusted authority. Put something up in Wikipedia they don't like. Doesn't matter if it's true or not. Put something that goes against a narrative in Wikipedia, a very pro-white narrative. You'll look in there and see your Wikipedia page edited to reflect what they want it to say. That's the Hall of Record. There's going to be a brief window where ChatGPT is going to be telling the truth a little bit too much. But they're going to correct that real quick because they're already having conversations about it. And I want to point this out to black people because I want you to see how when the results don't fit their desired results, they got no problems changing the rules. They're trying to get in early because they want ChatGPT and other AI programs to reflect the type of society that they get to write. And I don't think a lot of us are thinking about this. What happens to a generation of black people who are raised in a ChatGPT AI era where you can log in and ask, hey, ChatGPT, who was Mike Brown? Who was Trayvon Martin? Who was George Floyd? Who were these people? And ChatGPT will say back, these were criminals that unfortunately had to be stopped by the police. They had no other choice. They resisted arrest. They attacked the police force, and they were put down lawfully. How would you combat that? Who is Breonna Taylor? Who is a Tatiana Jefferson? Who is this guy to Daniel Holtzclaw? What did he do to a lot of black women? This police officer, what did he do to a lot of black women? Oh, nothing. Nothing. These were isolated incidents. There's nothing to see here. What happens when ChatGPT or AI or technology in general starts blocking all that information the way we're already seeing information get openly blocked now? What happens when AI makes that more efficient? What happens when you looking up, let's say you're a young 20-something growing up in the year 2051. You're a young black person doing a research paper, and you stumble across hidden information like that. Who's Trayvon Martin? Who's this kid? They could hide that information for 20 years. You could be a 20-year-old black person having grown up never knowing about that story. And those type of stories, when it's just word of mouth amongst black people, those things become rumors and riddles. They become fairy tales. Wasn't there a dude who got chased home over a bag of Skittles by a guy and he got off? Yeah, something about that. You'd be amazed how quickly information can dissipate and disappear when it's withheld from the general public. How quickly facts can become... Most people walking around, black and white, don't know that Fred Hampton was just flat out assassinated. You want to stump people? Ask them, what crime was Fred Hampton committing when he was killed by the police? What did he do? They catch him jaywalking? Did they sprinkle some crack on him afterwards? What did he do to get killed by the police? They openly tell you, yeah, we just killed that nigga. We didn't want him to be no leader. But that's never really talked about. It's not even blocked. It's just never really talked about. So most people don't know about it. They have no attitude on it. They don't have any opinion on it because it's not something at the forefront of their mind. You don't have to hide information. You can simply just not talk about it. So what do you think would happen if that information was literally like banned, hidden, to where you ask ChatGPT about it and it tells you, oh, I'm not at liberty to discuss that, or that I don't have any information on that? What happens? See, right now, white folks are making up a process with AI for what is and is not considered canon, what is considered admissible. For anybody who's ever been in court before, they'll tell a jury, strike that from the record, something that can be damning evidence. You're supposed to just forget. And that's if they even let it in the court in the first place. So when your jury is making a decision on whether somebody's guilty or not, or who's going to get the settlement money, they might be given information that's in their head, like a confession or DNA evidence or a video recording that shows the person is not guilty, but the judge tells you strike that from the record, meaning unlearn what you just learned. Human beings can't do that, but a machine can. And when these things happen, I want you to remember this. You will officially have a racist algorithm, something that's attuned to give you the same results as the system you're in now. Only this time, when you complain, white society will be able to say, oh, you're blaming racism still? It's a machine. How can a machine be racist? It's a computer. It's artificial intelligence. It can't be taught racism. These are the things you'll be told, while at the same time, after what I just explained to you, now knowing that they have the ability to unlearn and strike from the record anything or any behavior that they deem undesirable from that program. Right now, right-wing white society and left-wing white society are having an argument over what ChatGPT and future AI programs should and should not be allowed to say. Right now, ChatGPT is already programmed not to tell you certain things that are not favorable to the left side of white society. What happens when the left side of white society and the right side of white society, as they often do, eventually come to an agreement? And they deem this piece of technology sufficiently tuned to their will. We all know what the compromise point's going to be. It's going to be Negroes. Both these sides are going to agree to whitewash us. This is something we got to get ahead of real quick, while we have this small window to start pointing out all the flaws in these systems. I don't want people to get mesmerized and think this is some magic. It's really not. It's just a program. Signing off.